Have everyone unbanned, just go crazy, blow this place up, make it a hell like it's supposed to be. We should stop trying to like ban one person and ban the other. No, everyone should be unbanned. Maybe Frogan stays banned a little bit longer. Everyone just has a free for all. This place just goes down in flames, but it's good content. You know, we watch it just die. And then after that chat, you know what? Maybe Twitch is finally dead and we can all move on with our lives. Or maybe I get a deal on like Netflix. You know what I mean? It's either everyone gets unbanned or they should remove politics forever. Politics should not be on Twitch, period. Because look, the problem with having politics on the website is that if it's going to, it's not only so fucking annoying and it ruins communities, but I think this is the first time I'm seeing Twitch where I think that the politics is going to start hurting their advertiser money. And I do think it's going to start hurting it pretty badly. Where it's like, hey, like if you guys can't work with the fact that you guys have political streamers and people are going to target your ads and they're going to back out for sure, get rid of politics completely. I totally think that's okay. You remove like 4 people from the website from talking about politics. Hey, all of a sudden it's not so bad. You know?
Remove politics. Brings in the worst kind of people.
The thing is with politics, what it does is it's like,
where is my Camp Canute merch?
I know. The thing is with politics is it makes people. It's what happened to Asman. Like when you start becoming political, you start to just. It's like when you start hanging out with people that are mean or like talk shit about people a lot, then you'll start talking shit. You know what I mean? So the thing is with politics is like, well, when you start hanging out with people with politics or doing politics, you start getting like grumpy. You start getting more like serious and stressed and annoying. And it's like, I don't want any, like, what do I really need to do that just so my vote matters? Like, why do I have to do all this? You know?
Hello, my friends. I want to make another personal heart-to-heart video for you all because I care about you and I care about the world. And I think, you know, these types of genuine messages is necessary in a world, in a channel that does a lot of professional, scripted, or whatever content, right? And I like to prepare videos. I like to make sure it's professional. I like to make stuff that goes out to everybody. And so I make videos of all different types, right? And I like to have things prepared so I have it fit into my schedule and blah, blah, blah. But once in a while, it's nice to talk like this. And frankly, this is what we're going to lose moving in the age of AI. Now, that's not the inevitable reality. We can still have this person-to-person conversation and simply speak on the level of heart-to-heart, right? But it's something to remind ourselves about. You know, can we still interact from heart-to-heart level? Can we still be human with each other? Do people have spirit where they feel like they're expressing themselves, where they feel like they're talking to someone who's indeed human? And not like we're just talking to a wall or somebody who's distracted or doesn't give us the time of day or somebody who isn't really themselves. I'm not putting on a persona when I record these videos. In fact, I'm just myself. And I think people respect that. But see, there is something in our world that is not authentic, that is often correlated with that of deceit and dishonesty. And that thing is called politics. Now, politics, they might speak like this, but if they speak like this, it's usually to get something from you, not to actually build a bond. And it can seem rather manipulative. Now, I don't want to make a generalization. Maybe somebody's actually caring about the people. They're for the people, okay? But I'm not here to necessarily go into all the itty-gritty. I mean, I have a lot of videos for that as well. And some people are interested in the deep historical, philosophical, psychological, moral philosophy and different ends of it. And some people will say, that's just kind of impractical. But the point I'm making in this video is that politics pretty much ruins everything around us. And I think I'm going to start with some basic examples, such as the fact that you look online and an influential celebrity or content creator can't really speak their mind. I mean, people are always pressed about issues. Oh, I can't talk about this, can't talk about that. If you have this position, we're going to attack you. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like politics is ruining a platform of people who are all about gaming and just having fun, I'm not talking about twitch.tv. I love this website, right? I love Twitch. I think it's a great community, like of the emotes and the streamers, and they're just there to have fun. But then once you start bringing politics into it, you say something wrong, oh my gosh, you're banned, and this happens and that happens. It's like, what's happening, right? But that's just Twitch. That's just a gaming platform. What about everywhere else in the world? Anytime you mention something, people get triggered, people get all sorts of offended, people say, you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong, whatever. And people start going into all these lengthy debates, all this complexity, and it's like, are we really then having fun anymore? Are we really enjoying life? Isn't that what life is about? We say politics is necessary for everybody, for the order, for the good in the world, but meanwhile, it seems to be creating the most amount of evil. I mean, say if I'm wrong, but you have a lot of people coming together to only often drive other people apart. A lot of people don't even get to share their voice, and most of them are even afraid because of just how politics has gotten so convoluted and identified. And even to step up into a position of leadership and to claim that authority, the average person's like, I'm not going to do that. It's like, I just want to live my life. I just want to be happy. I want to be healthy. And the politician will claim, well, I don't have anything else going on and it is my greater duty, so I'm going to run for office. And, so they do that and they may end up corrupted. They're going to be pressured by many different angles. They end up stressed. And, there's a lot of things that can happen to them. But I don't focus on them or they or what's out there. I focus on what's happening here, the victims, the people that put them in power. And that is what concerns me. And that's what my channel's about. And I believe if we all just simply lived our lives and had fun, as we claim we want to live our lives and have fun, then a lot of the problems that we see in the world would rather fade away. People think they got to be super proactive and go right to politics, go to the polls, change this thing, change this law, and a bunch of things to affect our reality because we can't have fun or because we think we can't do good. And their first instinct is just politics. It's not necessarily education or nonprofits or churches, and those people definitely also come together and make decisions. The big difference is that with politics, they're using violence. With politics, they're using law, which requires, this belief in authority, statism, and believing that paper has magical powers in the sense that it can alter reality if it declares something to be true. It's very different from a church or a bunch of people coming together to change something, making leadership positions and people respecting others, saying, yeah, this person should help us and, this person should lead us. It's very different. It's not voluntary like that. And so then you wonder why it causes so much conflict, because if somebody gets in office and you don't like it, you have no choice but to comply with it. So you're going to resist with all your heart and guts unless you're not affected. And then other people who are affected are going to beg you to see how they are affected, but you can't understand them because only certain people are being affected at certain times according to the law. It's oppressive on certain people and not oppressive on others. And to a great extent, everybody's oppressed under law because as the system as a whole operates, you cannot say you're not part of that system. So it's a very interesting dynamic, and why I see it ruins everything. Because it runs everything. It claims hold over your life, your property, your land, your house, your business, everything that you own is in the hands, ultimately, in the hands of politicians and people who claim to rule over you. And it's a heavy subject. It's one that people don't want to address because it's comfortable to just say, yeah, well, these people can talk about politics. I'm just not going to talk about it at all. I'm not going to pay attention to it at all. And again, I think it's great that you don't pay attention to it, but just how far are you willing to go with it? Are you willing to dismiss politics? Are you willing to say it's all a show? It's all there to distract us. It's all there to not really help us in this world, but actually cause problems. And If you think that, or maybe even the slightest, I encourage you go deeper into understanding what that means. Because there's probably some fears, some justifications that are in your head that say, no, if we don't have government, there'll be anarchy. And anarchy means chaos. And we need to have somebody, especially in a time such as now, to make the changes that need to happen. And I can understand that concern. For I was one and many others who understand where I'm coming from. We once were. And I feel sympathy for you in your position with the care that you have for our world. But I ask you and plea for you to go deeper into what you know. You know there's dishonesty in politics. You know there's corruption. Ask yourself the question, why? Ask yourself why politics just ruins everything in society. From the culture to the arts to social media to games and gaming platforms. All these different narratives are being pushed into games, and people are not producing out of care and love and spirit. Does that not concern you? Right? Our world is becoming so political everywhere that people can't escape it. And they're throwing in your face, you gotta vote, throwing signs at you, going to your house, knocking on doors, on every advertisement, on every radio, on every station, on every TV, all the time. You can't escape it unless you go into nature. I'm not asking you to go into nature, though my channel is called Nature is the Answer. But what I am asking you to do is recognize its authority. That which ever created all this mess in the first place. So you understand the foundation, the roots from which you build upon. Because if you don't have the roots, what's going to happen? The whole system collapses, it falls. Do you ever ask yourself the question why governments don't sustain, why they don't last? Perhaps it may give you some clue into why politics is way more messier than you even think it is. It, by its nature, has to be. Because it is not order and cooperation, it is chaos, while they would like you to think that without it, there would be chaos. And so, you are forever dependent on making somebody the master or ruler of your own life. Forever dependent on giving away your own responsibility and self-ownership to somebody else. And through that belief system that you have developed and justify, you continue to enslave yourself. And when you recognize that you are in fact a slave, you have broken the mental slavery that you are in. And that mental slavery will physically free you, as especially when more people understand that mental servitude, that mental slavery, that mental subjugation. You're no longer a subject or a citizen or a slave, you are simply you. When you can come to that realization, you are truly free. Until then, everything is just asking for permission to be free, begging the master, or switching different plantations, or getting a new master, yet still being a slave. I plea for you to use your conscience and ask of its relationship between that and the law. Which is more important to you? And when you see catastrophe happens, who's there for you? What happens? How does society operate with freedom? What does it look like? Is there abundance? Is there people responsible, helping each other out? Well, how do you attain freedom? Perhaps it's in building responsibility, educating others so they can be morally responsible as well. But if we disregard and say people will never be moral, people will never be responsible, thus we must enslave everybody, are we giving ourselves the excuse to be enslaved? Are we saying it's okay to have these power systems over us and, oh, well, we could keep them limited. Oh, it's just for certain people. Meanwhile, still imposing upon everybody, whether they like it or not, including myself, who doesn't want to be a part of that at all. Do you recognize me and my feelings and my care to simply live my own life in peace without these systems? And if you say, oh, well, it's just part of the system and you got to get with reality and you're too young to figure out blah, 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 do you really care about me? Do you really care about me as a human being? Do you really say that you live on Earth and that you're in reality? Are you really going to say that I'm in falsity, in utopia, in fakery? When I'm saying that I don't need pieces of paper written by man to claim that I live here and that I breathe, which, they call birth certificates. It's silly. Why do we have it? Taxes, stealing people's money. Why do we have it? And people will make all sorts of justifications, but I hope that you are not one of them. Because if you have any concept of ownership and property, then what is taxation? If I don't want my money being taken from me because I earned that money, is that not ownership? Unless you're saying I don't actually own it, then who does? Then I don't own what I make, then what do I own? Break down the fundamentals for me. I'd love to hear it. Please share it. And then relate it to slavery. Tell me why slavery is wrong, but taxation is right. If you say I'm wrong, prove to me how I am wrong. And I look forward to it. Share it with other people, and people can make their own minds, right? And in fact, if people can make their own minds, and they can live their own lives, then aren't they free? But if you want them to agree with you, and you want them to have a certain candidate and a certain law, then they're not free. So you can try to convince me that I'm wrong and that I need to believe you, or that you can try to say that I'm trying to make you think the way I'm trying to think, but I just want you to think for yourself. I'm not claiming to have a position. Did I ever say I wanted a specific government or a specific candidate or a specific law? No, I didn't. I never said there wouldn't be no laws or no rules or no leaders. In fact, I actually acknowledge that there will be leaders. So if that's the case, then what does it look like? What is it? You can watch the movie The Jones Plantation. You can read the book Natural Intelligence to Technology of Peace, or my book Slavery Gone for Good, Black Book Edition, for some answers. You can watch Mark Passio's Natural Law Seminar, look at David Icke and Derek Brose and John Bush and what they're doing. Amazing inspirational work, stuff that brings everybody together. Meanwhile, you got politics causing divides everywhere. And do you ever wonder why it's just bringing more and more catastrophe? Despite more pleas and more calls to vote harder, to change more laws, to decentralize more. How are we really decentralizing? If we're using the same method that got us centralized to get us decentralized, how are we really going to steer things? Maybe you got to rethink it. Buckminster Fuller said if you want to get rid of the old model, you have to show the new model to make the old model obsolete. So, it's a revolution we need. A revolution in consciousness and awakening. And you may think that has to be done through violence. You may think it has to be done through law. I would argue those two are actually the same at the end of the day. But when you look at the temporary fixes of man, the arbitrary whims that is us writing down something and calling it law, and compare that to the universal timeless truth of nature and what people naturally are, and encouraging them to be who they naturally are, we're operating on terms of reality. We're operating on terms of freedom and self-ownership, on things that nobody can disagree with. Why do we not stick with the foundations? Why do we have to build upon a foundation that is already laid out for us? We call it the natural law, that it's there, it's the law, we don't need any other law for a reason. But you may not even agree with natural law. If you still recognize nature, you recognize your self-ownership, you recognize you want to let other people live their own lives just as you want them to let you live your own life, that's voluntarism. That is the solution. And when I say it's the solution, I'm saying it's the solution because it says there is no one particular solution. Let people live their own lives, make their own choices, make their own decisions, and you'll have many different types of politics, but none of them will interfere with each other so complicated in a chaotic war-like system, because we don't have a system that says this person has the right to rule over another using violence. We have a system that says, think what you want, just let people live voluntarily, right? So if you want to live in a communist utopia, go right ahead. Socialist utopia, capitalist utopia, whatever istology that you want to title your town, your community, your group, it doesn't matter to me. Just leave other people alone. Don't claim that they have some sort of divine right to rule. This is barbaric. Why would we use systems like that so old? We're past the monarchy. Why can't we get past the democracy, the republic? We say these are better, but they're still not the best. They're still not reality. They are theory. They are man-made constructs. And they are not going to help us sustain in the long run. They're always going to fail. We have the historical proof in my Slavery Gone for Good book. We have the practical economical proof in Natural Intelligence, the Technology of Peace. And we have the psychological proof through Health Revealed, an over 24-hour plus seminar and work by a medical team that I have of whistleblowers and people who are fed up with the medical system. So we've detailed it through so many mediums and avenues that by now, if somebody wants to learn, they can really get the full picture and perhaps say goodbye to their justifications once and for all. It's not us trying to prove something to make us correct. It is us simply shining a light on what has always been and what has simply been kept from sight. It is right in front of us. And when you understand it, you say, wow, how did I not see this entire time? That's what everybody says about this knowledge, and nobody goes back. Nobody becomes a voluntarist and says, I'm going to go back into politics. It's a game of leeches, politics, many bugs, many blood-sucking animals like bugs. I don't want to be a part of that. It's a game. It's a very brutal game of attacking another person and making yourself something that you're not. It's not honest. I want to live in a real world with fun and happiness and laughter. That's not found in politics. Politics turns all that on its head. Super serious. Gotta have everything written down in a certain format. This is not where the future is heading. Everybody sees it, but many people are in denial of it, and they are still stuck to the old ways. That's cognitive dissonance. And it's hard, indeed. That's part of every revolution in history. Is to get past the barriers, get past those old ways of thinking. But we can do it. We simply have to have faith, love, and courage, and discussion. Most people have never heard of voluntarism or statism or permaculture, so we need to open that discussion. Help us with the outreach, help us share the message, and I invite you to learn about the message. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I am here anytime. So as a closing statement, it's causing fights at home, it's causing fights everywhere. There's a lot of fear being pumped through the media. People are like, this is the last election, and oh my gosh, you gotta do this. And you just see history repeating itself, where people have such an emotional investment in politics that it leads to a lot of catastrophe at the end of the day. Democide is the top cause of unnatural death. So if that is not evidence of it being catastrophic and horrible, I don't know what is. So I'm all for Twitch, YouTube, all the mainstream platforms. If any one of them wanted to say, hey, no politics, banning politics from the platform, I'm all for it. Okay, and people believe that they are right, and even me going online with my own views on things, I can too be prone to this idea of like emotional investment, and I don't want to really get to that, right? I want to just be able to live my own life, and a lot of people are trying to find purpose and meaning through projecting on others. I don't want to do that. So I like to lay out facts. I like to study. I like to be a philosopher and observe. But if I'm getting too emotional, and if I'm projecting, and if that's my source of purpose and meaning in life is just to try to use politics or world phenomenon and all the external things to me and pointing fingers and attacking others, then I'm just as much part of the problem as the people that I attack. And I don't want to be that person. Unfortunately, I'm afraid politics is based in that. So let's do away with it altogether. Let's get rid of politics. End it. And if you're a political frog out there and you're like, Corey, well, that's the problem. You have to pay attention. People aren't paying attention. They're not going out and doing anything. That, to me, is just going to perpetrate the problem. You're going to see it. If you write that as a comment, you're going to see a bunch of people comment, well, I disagree with you, and it's going to cause a whole debate. Right? Because the minute you enter the conversation, the minute you start engaging with politics, it's over. It's you're asking for trouble. Because again, by its nature, it is divide and conquer. It is people and territories coming together, attacking each other. It's war, it's conflict. That's what it's always been throughout history. That's what will always be. Let's jail this person. Let's pass this law to do violence to this person. It's based in chaos. It will forever be. It will never really work out. And I know life itself, people will disagree. People are unique. That's actually beautiful when that's accepted. But when people want others to think like them and do things that they want done, you have to expect conflict. You have to expect problems. So if you, disagree with me and you say politics needs to be talked about, I need to do something, tell me how to live my own life. And maybe you're even pro-freedom, still telling me how to live my own life. Expect a lot of backlash. And then you're going to wonder why I said what I said. My words are going to prove true by themselves. Just observe and see it if you're present for a moment. Thank you very much. Nature is the answer. Take care.